What's up everybody, I'm Mad.Ak.Max and welcome to my channel and yet again another kit tutorial. Today we take another look at a kit used by FSB A Alpha, and as always we try to recreate the look from the picture, the reference picture we use for our impression, as close as possible. You can find the picture as always on my Instagram and a few more pictures on my Patreon as always. This said reference picture was shot on a shooting range where the FSB Alpha was training, and I believe it was released on a calendar. Those calendars are actually quite a good reference point for pictures and for footage that hasn't been released before, and is usually printed in very low numbers and then given from the government to the FSB soldiers, and like I said, in low numbers also to the public as well. Why did I choose this kit? Well, first of all, I had pretty much everything I needed for that kit in the house. Secondly, the color scheme is just drip. The gray from the jacket is just mwah. I love it. But let's not waste further time. Let's get into the kit and we begin as always from the very top and start with the helmet. You have seen this helmet before on the channel. This is an Elzish 1 Plus high cut helmet with the 3M Peltor's Comtex XPIs. Very common helmet in the FSB, actually one of the most common helmets. Very expensive right now. We had in the last video the talk about the Elzish helmets. Well, you have to expect in between 900 and 1,200 US dollars, and getting them right now is very difficult because Russia is keeping an eye out there of what is leaving the country, and people are a little bit afraid of sending this modern stuff over the border right now. Some do it, but anyway, you also have to keep in mind there are sanctions, and you can get into big trouble, especially if you're in the EU right now. If you try to import hard ballistic or soft ballistic, you can get into a lot of trouble for that. But of course, there are alternatives. There are replicas available, mainly, for example, from FSB shop. Of course, you can also invest into a Gearcraft replica, but I kind of stay away from those because they are quite off. They are very expensive and the quality is not the best. Another option is to make one yourself. In my last video, I have shown you how to create a helmet completely from scratch. And I also released files for my Patreons for the arc rails and the helmet mount, and also cutting templates for the Velcro. So you're completely set, but you can buy, for example, an Obscure Fast helmet clone and then put the arc rails and Velcro on that. You have everything you need for that on my Patreon. So let's talk about one of the most iconic pieces of equipment of the modern Russian FSB, which is the Ford Gladiator body armor. Everybody who tipped their tappy toes into the matter of FSB has heard of the Ford Gladiator, which is one of the most used and one of the best looking body armors that is in use with the Russian FSB, at least in my personal opinion, but this is an absolutely great piece of equipment. The Ford Gladiator comes in different variations, which is A, V, and S, or as people translate it or take the Cyrillic alphabet, it's A, B, C, which is a little bit simpler. For the sake of the video, I will refer to A, B, and C. Those variations differ mainly in their setup. For example, this is the Ford Gladiator A, which is also used in the reference picture, but this is a different generation, but more to that later. And for example, the Ford Gladiator C has a split front panel and also has different buckles and clips up here at the shoulders. The first prototypes of the Ford Gladiator popped up around 2010 and has seen some significant service since 2013 plus. As I mentioned, I have a different generation of the Ford Gladiator than the model that is used in the reference picture. The one in the reference picture is a very early version, or an earlier version around 2014, and you can tell the main difference is the green Velcro on the original, mine is tan, and the black straps on the shoulder. On the original, mine are dark green. So, and the reason for that is also the next point. Getting a Ford Gladiator is very difficult. A Ford Gladiator is very expensive. We are talking about 1,600 plus, and yeah, the prices exploded quite a while ago, and I have seen models from Russia for nearly 3K. So this is an extremely expensive piece of equipment, and of course many people don't want to spend that much money on a original body armor, which is also right now quite difficult and risky to and import. So what is the alternative? Well, you can buy replicas. There are some very good replicas available, for example from Toy Soldier, but those are actually also quite rare by now. You have to expect in between 300 and 600 because they are quite rare. Some people take a lot of money for them, and it's one of the best replicas available, actually, in my personal opinion. Furthermore, there are gladiators available that were produced with not original multicam, basically Chinese multicam. You can tell those apart from the original by the color scheme and the overall quality, and also the imprints on, for example, the molly straps. This is also the reason why so many replicas are so much more expensive than others, because they use original materials, original multicam, and this is quite more expensive than the AliExpress stuff, of course. Usually if you find someone who makes replicas, you can pay them a little bit extra or cover the material costs, and then they will craft your replica from the original materials. There's also an FSB shop replica available. I never owned one, but from the pictures, well, There was also a Ukraine company, I'm not sure if they are still active right now, which put out quite a number of replicas of the Ford Gladiator. Was also more on the cheap side, but sometimes you're also lucky and find private dealers or private people who craft their own replica and sell those later on. But as conclusion, you have to expect at least 200 up to 600 for a replica, depending on the quality of the Ford Gladiator copy. At some point I also want to grab another Ford Gladiator that was produced in an earlier year, but right now, yeah, I have a few items, very expensive and very rare items in the customs, and I'm waiting and waiting and waiting, and I don't want to risk another expensive piece in the hands of the government. The Ford Gladiator comes with quite a few different attachments and armor panels. For example, very characteristic, the neck protection, neck collar, or the shoulder protection. Also, of course, one of the most distinctive features of the Gladiator, the ground protection, which looks like a big ball sack. This is a very common setup when we were talking about the armored parts, the groin protection, side, and no shoulders and no neck protection. A Ford Gladiator with every armor piece attached is quite often seen with shield carriers though. So let's talk about the other attachments we can find on the body armor. As you can see right here, we have the Peltor PTT. The original one is plain black. I have painted mine a little bit. Furthermore, a tourniquet. Identifying the original, very difficult, very grainy picture, but I just went with an SRV one. You can of course just use a black tourniquet. Attached to the shoulder you can find the IFF armband made by SSO. It is worn, I believe, on the right shoulder. I had mine on the right shoulder. Just strap it around there and you're good to go. The pouch setup is quite interesting because here we see something that looks very cool but is very inconvenient, or at least not my favorite type of wearing a K-Max, because the gentleman in the picture is using a row of 4 AS-Val shingle mags from Ford. So why am I not a big fan of this setup? Well, I just don't like the valve pouches. Of course, they look great with the setup, but getting a magazine into one of those is quite a hassle. And you also have to readjust the rubber bands right here that hold the magazine into place, because they are usually for shorter 20 round valve mags. Up here you can find a JTAG pistol pouch, which is worn for some reason upside down. If you want to recreate something from 2013 plus, you can always rely on JTAG. That stuff is very common in the FSB Alpha. It is a Taiwanese company, I believe, and yeah, very, very significant use in the Russian Special Forces. This is also the reason why I went with the JTAG general purpose pouch on the right side. The original is something else, I believe. JTAG completely fine. You can go with that without a problem. Of course, not exactly one-to-one recreated the original impression. I don't care. Sadly, there aren't any pictures of the pouches on the left side of the body armor, so I just went with a Ford double frag grenade pouch and an SRBV Survival Corps double mag pouch. Before I forget about this, I want to recreate the Ford Gladiator groin protection, and I will sue myself pretty much a one-to-one copy. I will create a template for you guys, for my Patreons, where the plan is basically that you can print it out, cut it out, glue it together, and then you have a perfect template for sewing in case you want to recreate a groin protection as well. Furthermore, I want to cover the complete process in a Let's Craft, in a short one, and then you also have a guideline for that. On the backside of the armor, I have two Warrior Assault pouches. Warrior Assault pouches are uncommon, but they see use, and a green FSB patch. I'm actually not sure if I've ever seen a reference picture with one of those, but I really like the color scheme, it fit, and I was told they were definitely in use. So if you want to be sure, just go with yellow. So now we will talk about my favorite piece of this kit, which is the Slavyanka gray Gore-Tex overthrow raincoat jacket thing. It's a very simple piece of equipment, but the color, it's one of those punchy storm grays. And I always digged gray on jackets, and this is the main reason why I just fell in love with this piece of equipment, and I was very happy to use it for this impression. If you buy this jacket, it usually also comes with pants, but for this kit we only need the jacket, and I haven't seen a reference picture of the pants in use anyway. The jacket is made from very thin Gore-Tex, which is great for the summer, so you don't die of a heat stroke, and still you keep the rain from your upper torso. You can find those usually on Facebook groups, and if I see somewhere a sales auction, I will link it to my Patreons. So the pants, well, to identify them on the picture is a little bit difficult because, yeah, the picture cuts off like right here. But we are for sure on the safe side if we go with Slavyanka G3s like these, Cry G3s, or Fontex G3s. This is the Slavyanka G3 2014 clone. The complete set is actually quite common and one of the best routes to go if you want to have a combat set 2014 plus. Otherwise you can of course just go Cry. Price difference is at this point minimal, neglectable. Of course you can also go Fontex. All three are very good options. Identifying the gloves is a little bit difficult. I just went with the trusty mechanics. You can of course also go HWI and Ford SRVV, many different options for black gloves that are correct for that time period. The boots are also up to speculation because, well, we can't see them. I just went with Black Mindals, absolutely fantastic manufacturer for boots and very nice and sturdy. And if you are now wondering what's up with the belt, well, I can't spot a combat belt setup on this picture, and I'm pretty sure he's not wearing any. So if you want to go the route, you can just go for JTAG, for example. There are many different options. The goggles. As you can tell, those are not the correct goggles. The originals, I am to 95% sure, are Wiley X spear goggles. I have just my Bollus because I was debating, do I want to spend like 80 bucks on another pair of goggles I don't want to use because I hate full seal face goggles. So I just stick with my Bollus and give you the information that those are Wiley X spear goggles. The holster and the sling are sadly not identifiable because the overall quality of the picture is just simply too bad, and yeah, it's too grainy to see anything. Well, I have some ideas, but I can't be exactly sure. So I just went with my Blackhawk sling and a Blackhawk holster platform setup. You can of course use as well Blade, Safariland or SRVV, all good options. And just like that, we are done again. Guys, thank you so much for watching. I seriously appreciate it. And as always, please check out my Instagram because I will upload the reference pictures there and other content, of course. And also check out my Patreon. You find the link down in the description. And just a final super big thank you to my Patreons. Guys, finger pistols. Pew, 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 pew. Thank you so much. Seriously, you believe in me from the very beginning. Thank you so much. I have nothing else. Guys, see you soon. Bye-bye.